And time now for our Entre Nous segment. Today we're discussing a subject which elicits much curiosity, gossip, and often quite a bit of secrecy. We're talking about salary transparency, and for more on this, I'm joined by Solange Mijan. And discussing one's salary is very much a taboo subject, isn't it?
It really, really is, especially among colleagues. How much do you earn? For some people, that question is a topic they just do not discuss, even if studies consistently show that this lack of transparency, it does create social injustice, exploitation, and it reinforces things like the gender pay gap. So the European Union has been on a years-long push to create better salary transparency in the EU, and it is now deadline time. By June 7th, the 27 EU nations are meant to transpose the EU directive onto their local employment laws or face potential fines. And nearly all of them, well, they are behind making those changes. But before we get into that and how France is implementing this, we need to break down what exactly is in these EU guidelines. 3 years ago, on May 10th, 2023, the EU adopted the Pay Transparency Directive, and it covers a number of things. In regard to job offers, it requires employers to disclose salary ranges. It also makes it illegal to ask a candidate their previous salaries. Also, companies, public or private, with more than 100 employees must publish gender pay gap reports and assess and take corrective action on pay gaps of 5% or higher that are unjustified by things like experience, time at a company, etc. It also makes contract clauses that require salary secrecy, it makes them illegal. But for many employees, the big thing is being able to get a better idea about what others in the same job earn.
So the big question, Solange, is does that mean we're going to know the salary of everybody in the newsroom? Or in the office?
No, is the short answer. As interesting as that would be, this directive does not do that. It does not require companies to be transparent on who earns what on an individual level. But it does require better transparency about ranges of one position or another. And this is something that many French people, but not all, most want it though.
It would be good to have more transparency, to allow for greater fairness in salaries.
It allows you to compare your salary with others to see where you stand on the pay scale.
I understand why people don't want to share how much they earn. If you have a low salary, you can feel ashamed. If you have a high salary, you may also feel bad for people who don't.
In 2025, APEC, the l'Association pour l'Emploi des Cadres, they did a study on how cadres, or higher-level employees, feel about salary transparency. And APEC found that 6 out of 10 French cadres, or white-collar workers, they are in favor of salaries being known in the office. And France here was along the same lines as Italy, Spain, and Germany on this. However, there was a difference in regard to secrecy that exists. The poll found that 46% of French workers, cadres, feel that there is opacity in regard to salaries in their workplace. This was more than the 38, 33, and 28% found in Germany, Spain, and Italy. The report also found, for example, that 66% of French companies, they currently do not make pay scales and those charts available. This despite the fact that the issue, particularly the gender pay gap issue, is not new in France. Since 2019, there has been something called the Pénicaud Index, which requires companies of 50 or more employees to report gender pay gaps. Despite criticism of some of the loopholes of this index, it has helped lower inequalities, which currently is at, in the private sector, 22% less for women than men. This is in part because of lower paying jobs, part-time work, but also sexism. Those figures are from l'INSEE, which also found that a woman, same job, same level, same everything, she earns 3.8% less than a man on average. The index will be replaced when the new law comes into effect, but France isn't there yet despite this looming deadline.
So has the French government said when it will be ready?
There is no doubt anymore that France is going to be quite late in regard to the deadline, and this like most EU countries. According to the tracker by L&E Global, 10 out of the 27 EU nations haven't even touched this. and only 2 of the 27, Slovakia and Italy, have done or have nearly done legislation. And in December, the EU said that it is not granting any extensions, so fines in the millions could be levied if we take precedent. We'll see what happens. But as for France, the Labour Minister, Jean-Pierre Farandou, he said in May that he was hoping to present a bill at some point in the month of June. But the details remain rather vague, and not everyone is on board either. Labour unions say that the French proposal does not go far enough, while business unions, they fear more administrative work and also a spike in tensions in the workplace. There is also a fear about productivity, that it could tank if, say, you find out your colleague earns more. Even if academic studies show that among higher earners, transparency can actually do the opposite. It can boost productivity to ensure that the higher earners feel that they earn it. And more so more so than those that lose motivation. Nonetheless, applying salary transparency can stir up a hornet's nest. And in France, there are very few companies that are completely have full transparency.
So we have an internal database where our salaries are updated when there's a change. It's there, and in 2 clicks I can access the wage figures of the entire company. The fact that it's open to see, it creates a dynamic where everything is accessible and nothing is hidden from us.
This allows all the employees to feel like a team. It eliminates tension. No more issues, no more arguments.
Now, working for a company where you know everyone's salary may feel incredibly unrealistic for most of us. But the goal of the EU directive is to create a revolution of sorts where there is greater equality among genders, but and also among all employees. A world where there really is equal pay for equal work. But we are not there yet.
Yes, as I know, being the host of the 51%, mind the pay gap, as I keep saying. So don't forget, for more Entre Nous, you can always check out our website at france24.com.